happens when I notice this with coaches and entrepreneurs is we get to this methodical place, and it's a beautiful place to rest. Not rest in like I'm lazy, but it's good for us. We have these habits. We have flow. And if we can rest, if we can spend the majority of our time in these methodical places for us, what happens is that's fertile soil for flashes and moments of mastery.
Welcome to Confessions of an Implementer. I'm your host, Ryan Hogan. We share unique stories of EOS implementers and the companies they've transformed to give you a rare glimpse into the successes and challenges of the system in action. Let's jump in. One, thank you for taking the time for this. Like you are, and you have to know this, but you are like probably the most popular EOS implementer. It's the name that goes out. You are the MC of the events. And so the fact that you're taking 45 minutes out of your day to come share your story, I deeply appreciate that. But what I would like to know is like, where did all of this start? Because you have, and I know this because I've watched your podcast, and I know this because I've talked to you before. You have this like energy that just, one, contagious, and two, doesn't stop. Like, where did all of this start for you?
Well, I'm going to put some of it into my DNA. Let's give some credit to my DNA. My dad is an entrepreneur, and he's a quiet entrepreneur, but his body kept going all the time. Now, he passed away several years ago, and I just said his body wore out because he just kept on going. So there's that. And then my mother just has this immense continual positive attitude. So first of all, let's just give some like, thank you, mom and dad. I'm blessed with good genes. Blessed with good genes. And then I do want to tell a story because I don't tell this story often, but you ask. So here we go. I was at the EOS conference. It was several years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And somebody said, I would love can you like bottle up that energy and sell it to me? And we were on the escalator. So, just a few. And I said, oh, I have the whole entire secret for you. I'll just give it to you. You don't need to. Like, I wake up early, I eat right, I drink tons of water, I work out, I meditate. I take days off where I'm totally out of my mind, essentially, do nothing days. I read a lot. I'm insatiably curious. And it's like all of those things support my energy. But if I list them out, they're things that we all know we should do. But do we take the invitation to do them, or do we, I also have a coach. I have multiple coaches. I do my own inner work. And I think that's where the energy is sustained. That's where it's sustained. And then I surround myself with other people who also believe in the same thing. There was a time where I felt very awkward for doing these weird things like meditating, or these weird things like waking up early in the morning. Now, like, oh my gosh, so many of my friends, oh yeah, they're up at 5 a.m. It's a normal thing. We're in the 5 a.m. club. We're in the 5 a.m. club. It's normal to have a stack of books by your bedside that are curious and outside your belief system, reading diverse things, having conversations with people with diverse thoughts, backgrounds. It's normal in my world because that's who I surround myself with.
Did you just wake up one day and you're like, you know what? Time to meditate, time to start setting that clock back? Like, or was this an iterative process throughout your life? Like how did you stumble on this?
Oh, thank you for this. Dan Sullivan, he said this really cool phrase to me once, and he said, Jill, everyone suffers, and but we can choose between short suffering and long suffering. And he says, it seems to me like what you're saying is you really enjoy long suffering. Isn't that great? Confessions of an EOS implementer. Hello, I'm here to confess. By my experiences, and I have evidence, I really enjoy long suffering. So this is to say, it has been a slow road. There were times when, we're kind of talking about my energy. There were times where I just fucking sucked it up. And I'm like, this is my job. I have to show the energy. And the energy was a mask and it was fake. And then I'd come home and I'd crash and all of that. So it's definitely over time. I might even say I am in a period right now where I feel like I'm in this really flowy energy. And I don't want to say I've mastered it, but I am in a mastery phase of I think I figured it out what works for me to have that authentic magic. I like to call my energy magic that um, can flow right through. Do I have down days? Do I have down moments? 100%. But it seems as if these days my highs are higher and even my lows are higher when I've dialed it in over a period of 50 years. Because I'm 50 and sometimes I need glasses.
It's interesting that like one, you're not saying it's all highs, and so it's like it's still the ups and downs. It's just kind of at a different level. When you were going through this, like let's just call it like an optimization period or an intentionality to be able to like solve for some of these things, was it up and down? Like did you have some things that came up and then like you lost it all and you're like, well, this is crazy? Or did you have this like natural progression of like layering in different things, different strategies, whatever it was, and it was like your normal ups and downs because we're all human, but just more of a linear path?
I'm going to widen this up. I'm going to zoom out, but because what a lovely question. And what a lovely opportunity it is here to just ponder that question and go back and experience my life and ask myself, was it a whole bunch of just smaller ups and downs? Was it extremes? And I'm going to start with the answer, and the answer is yes. It's both. But I'm going to zoom out. And if I look at the optimization period, it definitely, if I zoom out, it definitely looks like this. It's a nice linear, kind of slow growth, um, learning a little bit at a time. And when I look at certain moments in there, it feels like, okay, I figured it out. And then just a huge crash. Um, it's really, really interesting. I I've started to ponder, I think life is my work and business is my play. And if I look at these big extreme things of like my soul, my where I had some big leaps of growth but also some big crashes, it's in my personal life for sure. And that's where my work is. Um my son was sick, 40 days in the hospital. And he, we're hoping that phase of our life is done, but you never know, might come back. And that growth period for me, where I felt like I was at the bottom of my barrel, I had no skills left. I was screaming at the doctors, like, that you have got to try something else. I'm not an idiot. Don't talk to me like I'm an idiot. This is not okay. He is dying. He's dying, and I go into this and I'm thinking, I can see myself going, who are you? That's not how we talk to people. Um, and feeling like I really if I don't do something, he is going to die. And having no control and then learning that lesson of surrender. And then in the exact same moment, to have somebody reflect to me, Jill, you seem like you're holding it all together so well. It seems to me that even at the end of your rope, you just create more rope, girl. You're fucking amazing. And I'm like, I just screamed bloody murder at these doctors and nurses who are doing the best they can. So that's where I say both. Both. Extreme moments. And also, I'm a big fan of, and it's worked in my life, I just try to adjust in 1% degrees. If I could just be 1% closer to the person who doesn't scream at doctors and nurses, what would that look like?
Have you found between like the physical and the psychological stuff? So if we were, and maybe psychological is not the right word, but let's look at, the meditation, um the things where you train your mind versus the things where you train your body. And actually that could be like waking up at 5 a.m. could probably be both, because you have to train your mind to actually wake up, but you have to physically get up. Have you found that, like, that there's one or the other that has a bigger impact on, well, maybe it's in different directions, but have you found that one, like, is more effective than the other?
Mm, I love this question because I used to think that for sure. I used to think that's, um, uh, it was, and they would go both ways. Like a healthy mindset, if you have a healthy mindset and you set a goal, and this is your discipline and this is your commitment, which all of that's up here in the mind, then you will behave that way. You will get out of bed, you will work out. And I kept them separate. Here's the healthy mindset, here's the physiology. These days, they are partners. They're partners together and they flow with each other. I'll give you an example. My 5 a.m. Some of my friends know that I had set my alarm for 4:44 because that's really fun and it's a really cool number in numerology, and I like and totally subscribe to everything woo woo because it's fun. You can walk around life as if everything is magic, which is so much fun, or as if nothing magic is magic, which is I don't want to live in that world. That is fucking boring to me. I'm not boring. So 4:44, I'd set my alarm, and I would go to the gym, and people would say, "What is your self care routine?" And I'm like, "Here's what I do," and I would lay it out for them. And at the same time, I want to say that my back always hurt. I went to the chiropractor. I do pelvic floor exercises. I had all like a physical therapy thing because my back was hurt. I got a different chair and I tried the not hurting to be like debilitating, but it just a low grade thing. What I realized when Orange Theory Fitness closed, and I was really mad because I could no longer walk to Orange Theory Fitness, and had a little private pity party for myself, like why me? I just my Orange Theory. When I changed my morning routine to something that was more lovely, walking in nature, doing some weights in my own weight room where I could stare at something lovely or listen to a podcast, something like that, my back stopped hurting. So now these days I wake up and I ask my body, what do you want to do? It's like, ooh, we want to dance. Cool, let's dance. And instead of my mind being a taskmaster to my body, we're we're working together. So my physiology and my mindset and my heart and my spirit, they work together. They're partners instead of one being dominant.
That's really interesting. One, I love the answer, and how it's almost like the mastery that you've been talking about is like tying all of these concepts together. So it's not, it's like, how do all of these kind of impact, um and like, what are the magic measurements for all of them? Also, your story resonated because I was an F45 guy, and it used to be right across the street when we lived in Seattle, and we just moved to LA about 10 months ago, and there's no F45. So all of these things that you talked about, just crying on the inside, that's been me. But it sounds like you figured out other things to do, which is great.
We do. And this was interesting too, because I totally believe that only the disciplined are free. I believe that structure frees creativity. I believe in structure. I love structure is my friend. And then what I have played with and made it my own is structured to what? Disciplined to what? I'm disciplined to my own strengths, not your version of discipline, not this book's version of discipline or this book's version of discipline. I'm incorporating pieces and parts where I'm disciplined to what works for my wholeness, my wholeness. Do I get caught up in a fad? Oh, you better believe it. Do I walk by the med spa and go, "Ooh, I could look like that too. Give me some injections." Oh, better believe it. And then do I get a rash? Yes. Yes, I do. Like, "Oh, huh." So there's a constant but lovely, constant but tender redirection of, "Oh, that was funny. I thought eating ice cream for dinner was gonna be really fun when I know that, like, now I don't feel good. Oh, no." But for the record, it really was fun. And I did it a few weeks ago. I was in a hotel. There wasn't a restaurant. I was a little bit hungry, but I'm like, "I'll just go to bed hungry because that's fine anyway." And they had a little pint of ice cream, and I'm like, "Nobody's looking. I'm gonna eat ice cream for dinner."
So I just ordered Wawa at like 3 a.m. a couple nights ago at this hotel. So I can commiserate with you on that.
A girl's gotta live. I'm like,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, "This is cool. This is fun." I kept every bite I would take, I'm like, "Oh, my body is loving this. It's gonna take all of this calcium and protein and it's gonna ignore the sugar." And I tried to cast a spell on that ice cream. It probably worked a little bit.
Have you always been, because like this sounds like grace to me. Like this sounds like you've gotten to a place where you can give yourself grace, and you talked about a little bit of the joke. Has this always been like this for you?
No, but thank you for pointing that out. When you said that feels like grace to me, wow. Thank you for that. Wow, that's a big, powerful word. Thank you for mirroring that to me, that's what you're experiencing. I'm going to write that word down and ponder on it later. No, 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 no. In fact, when I remember very specific, you know how you have those life moments that you just remember these so specific and you will never forget them. Do you have those?
Yes.
I have one where I was born. I was in my young adult life. I belonged to a very demanding religion, and I'm raising my children. My child. I only had one child at the time, and I'm trying to make sure that he is fitting this mold. He was two, by the way. I'm going to pause for everyone to giggle, giggle, giggle. Okay, for my own internal giggling. He's two, by the way, and he's just naughty, right? He throws things, he bites, he screams, he's loud. I think he's fantastic at this point, but he's not right, like kind of fit in the mold of this high demand religion. I called my mom and I said, "Well, I guess I'm done." And she's like, "Okay, well, like, say more." Um, I can't do this. I do not know how to be a perfect parent, a perfect wife, a perfect daughter, a perfect member of this religion. I've tried everything. I think I'm doing everything wrong. So I was just gonna like quit everything. I don't know what that looks like, but that's the feel.
We would have figured it out.
I would have figured out how to quit. And as I was doing this rant to my mother, we were on the phone, and I said, "All these perfect people I can't keep up with," and I named them. And my mother and her wisdom, and I'm just so grateful. And you remember I said she's this positive, like she's just positive. She dropped her guard and she named these people one by one who I had mentioned. And she told me about their shitty lives because she was an adult and I was a young adult. Like I didn't know, but she knew. She's like, "This one's in bankruptcy. This one's been through multiple affairs. This one, their child is gay and they wouldn't ever dare tell anybody because they feel like they'll be ostracized. This one." So I'm looking at this world as if everyone was perfect but me. And so grateful my mother did that for me. And it's like, oh my gosh, is everyone in as much pain as I am? why are we doing this to ourselves? So there was a shift, but up until that point, there was zero grace, zero grace. Um, I was in the Miss America pageant circuit when I was young. So I mean, you can imagine zero grace for imperfection there. And it wasn't anyone else. It was me. It was me. No one placed pressure on me. It was like, oh, can I be more perfect that way, that way, that way, that way?
And was that the like, one of the things was like, how long does that take? But it sounds like you had that moment that like kind of sparked all this.
I think I definitely feel the transition of the awareness. And in coaching, in lots of life, we'll say awareness is half the battle, right? Awareness. I had this awareness, and then it was 1% in the back of my mind, and then over time, this awareness expanded to the point where the awareness actually affected my behaviors. The awareness then affected my choices. I'm also divorced and left the high demand religion at the same time. I mean, holy moly! But the awareness, the skill building. There's a lovely author. We call her Dr. Amy. Her book is The Biology of Trauma. And she says, she's a friend of the Coaching Magic podcast, Coaching Magic School. And she says that everyone has these traumas, everyone has triggers, everyone's got shit, right? Like, this is what we've got. But to the degree we have the capacity to hold it, to let it flow through, to cope with it, we have these skills, then it doesn't affect our daily lives. And that's what I see that I did. I had the awareness, built the skills and capacity to deal with what was going on around me. And then at some point, we passed this line of courage where we have a bit of courage to step out, and now we start behaving that way. And if I look back at my life, that is definitely the path that I feel I took.
I'll preface this with I'm sure like results vary. And the reason I ask this question is because I'm sure like like you said, as your mom started to talk about other people, it's like, oh, it's not just me. Like everybody's dealing with their own shit. Like there's things happening in everybody's life. And I'm sure there's someone listening to this and just heard exactly what you just said. And it was like, you started to build this foundation and these blocks, and then you got to a place where you had the courage to start taking action on that. And so with the preface of like, I'm sure results vary, like how long were you optimizing? Optimizing is such a business term. Like how long were you working on this before like the courage and that other stuff start? It was like the tipping point.
So if I look at some time periods, um, that one situation with my mother, it happened when I was like probably like 27, 24, maybe 24-ish. So that's, I'm like, gosh, that's pretty early, Jill. That's good. That's nice. Right? Nice. I like that we started to wake up so early. I like it. But then I look at other points of, um, these points of, I have this model where it's like anything that you want to change, or you maybe even you have changed and you look back at this, it all starts with movement, just a little movement. The movement to just call my mother when I felt it, that was movement. And then as we start to grow, we get mechanical, because you're like, okay, I am going to now start waking up in the morning and reading some of these things, but then you forget, and then there's at some point you get methodical. Like, this is just ingrained in me. These are my mindsets now. And I think maybe if I'm just thinking about trying to put things, in a general term, I probably got methodical maybe 3 years into my EOS practice, which I've done EOS for now almost a dozen years. But then what happens when I notice this with coaches and entrepreneurs is we get to this methodical place, and it's a beautiful place to rest. Not rest in like I'm lazy, but it's good for us. We have these habits. We have flow. And if we can rest, if we can spend the majority of our time in these methodical places for us, what happens is that's fertile soil for flashes and moments of mastery. I'm convinced that mastery, like a magical moment, a serendipity, a synchronicity, those happen they're like lightning bolt moments. And if I try to stay in that mastery for too long, so I do individual coaching of people, and sometimes we are really in it and we are in this mastery and it is high flow. We need to come down because our bodies do not have the capacity to hold all that energy. So when you say, like, where is this? I think it was about 3 years in, I really hit a methodical. And then these mastery points, like creating coaching magic, was a flash of mastery. And all 11 elements of coaching magic came through me onto the whiteboard in about 22 minutes. However, if I say, "Oh, it took me 22 minutes to create coaching magic." No, because I am constantly recreating and going deeper and deeper into coaching magic. And also, for my whole entire life, I've been living my curriculum because my life is my curriculum, living that for those 22 minutes of mastery for all of that to download and get on the whiteboard that day. And I also have a video of it that I love. So that's really fun because I pushed play when I felt it coming through. So that's always fun to have record of your moments of mastery.
Is that the video that I saw was the one with you with the cards? Was that
No, that was not the download.
okay? Oh,
No, the
you've got a private one.
Yeah, oh, yes, I've got a private. It looks like this. I'm in a ponytail and a hoodie, and I'm, like, sweating, and I'm looking at myself going, "Are you fucking kidding me? This is happening right now." And I'm like, "Oh, what's the next? Oh, it has to be this." I mean, it's hilarious. It's a really fun video. But that one's just for me. That was just Yes, you probably saw. Then it was, then we made it real. We made it real. There's some cards, there's a website, there's a course, there's live events, there's a podcast, which is really fun because it's all around these 22 minutes of mastery that came, and now we just expand from there. But it's so fertile when you can get yourself in that methodical, which is why EOS is so beautiful. I mean, think about people running on EOS. They move, they pick up the book, they call an implementer and say, "I think I want to do this." Then it's mechanical for the first 6 months. I mean, remember when you had your first level 10 meeting? It was like, this is the worst thing of my life. It's clunky and boring, and someone's on their phone and I'm sweating. And it's like, but then it's methodical. Like, you can't run your company without it because you just know this. Boom, 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 drop it down. And it just feels like flow. And then because you're trusting of each other, you have these moments, these flashes of brilliance of these really great ideas, and you move the company forward.
This mechanical phase is really interesting to me. And well, I'll ask a question first, and then maybe a little deeper into it. The question is, like, is it during the mechanical phase where you normally see like the highest drop off or the most like maintenance that's needed?
Yes, of course. Of course. This is why my favorite phrase to my clients who are in that phase, and this is with coaching clients, this is with individual clients, this is with my EOS clients. It's that first, whatever the first time frame is, when they'll call and they'll go, "This isn't working." And I'm like, "Awesome. Awesome. Tell me what's not working," because in you noticing what feels clunky and irritating, you've already won. You've already won. You picked up the phone and you called me. You noticed something felt weird. Perfect. Perfect. That's the win right there. And you're so far ahead of everyone else who would go, "Well, um, that thing's not working, so we're going to change this. We're not going to have a scorecard because we don't believe in transparency and we think that hurts people's feelings." And they just hide this and they shove that feeling of this isn't working under the rug. And so then that gives me a chance to teach again and ask some questions, and we refine and we go back and we repeat ourselves until it gets methodical. But it absolutely, if you don't have a coach I mean, just imagine that. This happens with our bodies too. I go to the gym and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to lift these big weights, man. And then the next day I'm dying and I think I'm never doing that again. Why would I do that again? That gave me pain. Do not do that again. So absolutely, absolutely that mechanical phase, it takes intention. You have to love the messy. You have to and another big thing that I do with my clients is we just laugh at it. We laugh. Just giggle and say, "This is hilarious. We don't know how to do this at all. Amazing." Give each other a gold star for just staying in the meeting. It's awesome. It's awesome. We don't take ourselves too seriously.
All right, quick break, friends. Do you find it impossible to hire and retain top sales talent? Or worse, are you paying insane recruiter fees who are all using outdated hiring processes? Yeah, I was too. At Hunt to Killer, we were spending hundreds of thousands on recruiter agency fees. And after I sold that company in 2025, I started Talent Harbor. And the whole vision here was to make sales recruiting accessible to small and medium sized businesses because the organizations that can hire and retain world class people are the ones that ultimately win. Most organizations rely on things like ZipRecruiter or LinkedIn, and they get hundreds, if not thousands, of resumes. But we find that the best salespeople are already perfectly placed somewhere else. And that's why our approach is to go after them. And we do that through a business model called recruiting as a service. We do not charge commissions. We do not have success fees. We don't have contracts. We don't have long-term engagements. And we become an extension of your team as expert sales recruiters. If you're tired of the same old recruiters and want to actually grow your sales team, check us out at talentharbor.com. That's Talent Harbor, TALENTHARBOR.com. Let's get your next sales superstar hired. Is there ever a time where it's hard to it's hard to understand like why you might be stopping something? So the interesting example you just gave, spot on. So the next day after the gym, you're like, this hurts. Why would I continue to do that?
Actually, my
Um,
my my
okay.
biceps hurt right now. So,
That's
oh,
that's make
I
sure
can I'm
keep
feeling
going.
it. I'm
Yeah.
feeling it. That's right.
Um but is there like are there times where it's less obvious that like someone's about to depart the mechanics and you don't get that call because they're not recognizing that something's tripping up?
Absolutely, and this is where our minds are so good at protecting us from pain. So good at protecting us from pain that we can call it the ego or whatever you want to do. And I love minds, by the way. Our mind, I do not like to shit on the brain and no, I mean, I'm brilliant and so are you. So like, we gotta keep that as our friend too. But there's this, I kind of look at it as a babysitter who's trying to protect me and keep me from harm. Uh, so that part of my mind won't even let me feel that pain. For sure. For sure. It gets in the way. And a lot of that comes in the form of just distraction. Like, don't look over here, Jill, where you're in pain. Look over here. This is not painful. A lot of times it looks like forgetfulness, procrastination. Um, Sometimes it looks like humor. Mhm. These little masks that they're actually making us feel better. These little dopamine drips of making us feel better so we ignore that this is painful. Now, one thing that I do to the antidote is what I found is if I can just highlight for my clients that this is likely to happen, hey, this is what our bodies do. It's awesome. Super cool. But here's what might happen. You might accidentally forget. You might get sick. You might get sick. I've had dozens dozens of times where someone on a leadership team, they're having a hard time, their people aren't in the right seat, they're not hitting their numbers, and they get sick on the day of our session because they know in the session we're going to talk about that, we're going to bring it up. Their bodies are protecting them. It's like, "Oh, nope, I got the flu." And they legitimately have the flu, they're not faking it. But that's how good our bodies are at protecting us from pain.
This is such an interesting and I think I told you when we were when we were coming on the call, I was like, I've no direct like we're just gonna kind of figure out. But this has been a really brilliant path. What like when you think about kind of optimizing another human, like how much variability is there in what you're kind of outlining? So for instance, for you, it's 5 a.m. and it used to be Orange Theory. Now it's nature walks with some, presses in the garage. But when you when you're helping other people, is it like these are the key components? There's like a disciplined wake up, there's a disciplined health, and those things like change based upon the human, or does it like is everybody unique?
So I also have 2 answers for that. So my definition of coaching is helping someone else become their best. And when I'm teaching this to coaches, we'll slow this way down and we take every single word and we say helping, what does this mean? People, what does this mean? Humans, because okay, what does this mean? And so I'm going to just focus in right now on there. So helping people become their best. There are coaching programs out there for sure where you can sign up for a coaching program and it's a physical challenge coaching program. So they may have a very specific, this is how I, the coach, am going to help you become my version of your best. So in Coaching Magic, we really focus on that word, their best. I'm working with a woman right now, and she said, she says, do I she's like, "Oh, only the disciplined are free, and I'm so inconsistent. Am I just lost for the rest of my life?" And it's like, well, discipline to what? To your best, to your strengths. So I have a really good friend who we kind of geek out back and forth about when is the best time to work out for a human body. And he's like, I work out at night. I'm like, I got to work out in the morning. We used to like tease each other back and forth, like, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. But we're not doing it wrong. That's what works for his body. And this is what works for my body. So there's so many, there's infinite possibilities. Now, that's one version of the answer, helping someone become their best. And then, do I have a framework? Of course, I have a framework, because sometimes if it's all chaos and if it's going everywhere, then we just get, if it's all spontaneity, then we get chaos everywhere. So in my world, we have a dash of structure, and that dash of structure, which also is EOS, is a dash of structure, by the way. There's people who out there who think, oh, this is so rigid and so tight. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. It is just a dash of structure. If you're feeling like this, we got to open that up for you. But a dash of structure. So here's the dash of structure that I will use in my own life, and maybe where to start with other people. And it's 3 things. It's energy, work, and love. Energy, work, and love. Usually what I found is those 3 things are going to be helpful for any human being. It's energy, kind of here at the bottom. You got to have energy to do anything. Health, you got to have your health. Your work, usually we're talented, unique individuals that want to apply ourselves. Maslow said, what one can be, one must be. We have this drive. And I know there's lots of visionaries and leaders who listen to this podcast. So you know what it feels like. I'm touching my gut if you're not watching this drive. And then there's love. We are social creatures. We are social beings. And we connect to understand ourselves. So in those 3 things, that's I helping people be their best, but also I found those 3 things seem to be at the core, the dash of structure in the coaching that I like to do that is useful. Yeah.
You talked about this idea of discipline's actually freedom, or discipline, like the art of discipline or active discipline is how you find freedom. And like it it breaks my brain to think about that, because when I think about discipline, I think about, like, rigid and calendars and schedules, and when I think about freedom, I think about nothing, like there is no working out. I'm just gonna walk down the road for no reason.
Ice cream for dinner.
Yes, yeah, that's how I would define freedom. How do you can you expand on that just a little bit?
I've expanded this with several clients, so thank you for asking me this. But this freedom, think about this. This freedom is not without responsibility. And that's how I used to look at freedom too, is like running naked in the forest and nobody can tell me what to do. I'm going to be my authentic self. I'm going to say what I think about you. I'm going to da 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 da. And that for me, when I am that way, like we're supposed to be authentic and free, or da, da, da. When I have approached life that way, I've looked at the wake I've created and the relationships that were the opposite of nurturing in that moment. And I'm like, that's not what I wanted to create. So, freedom for me has a lot to do with um, purposeful creation of a free life, the life that I intend to create. And if I know if I'm just like a wild woman, that is not the life I want to create. There is cause and effect. There is cause and effect. So I have this fun theory that I'm playing with, that there's awareness. Think about like a cake, okay, just a 2-layer cake at this point. You guys, it might be 3 layers at some point. My theories, my theories and approaches and algorithms and methods are always evolving. That's what I like about coaching too. But just a 2-layer cake with a thin line of raspberry, because I'm into raspberry these days, thin line of raspberry to it. And this top layer is, oh, you know what? Let's see. Let's go with the bottom layer. The bottom layer is awareness. It's like, yeah, I'm aware that I have this blind spot. I'm aware that I have this weakness. I'm aware that I have this power over people. Anything that we're aware of. But we're aware of it, but we don't change our behavior. Have you seen that? I've seen that also as a defense mechanism of visionaries. A lot of times leaders, they're like, oh, I know I do this, but they don't change behavior, because what they're not doing is they're not going through this raspberry layer of, now I have the freedom to choose. But when I choose, I also need to be responsible for that choice. So it's like a layer of responsibility, a freedom to choose. And when we help clients, when we help ourselves say, choose this and be responsible for your behavior, that's where, I mean, that is the, like, that's all the flavor of life right there, is that, oh, that moment when you choose to behave this way and take responsibility for your choices. Awareness is not enough. We have to step into the freedom. That's where the freedom is, the freedom to choose. But it's not always lovely. It's kind of scary to say, I have the freedom to choose. And once I choose, I also have to take responsibility for that. But it also can create a lot of possibilities.
What you're saying resonates so deeply, because, like, I've acknowledged some things about myself probably for the last decade and haven't, like, intentionally made a choice until recently. And I think the thing that kind of scares me most today is, like, the blind spots where I might be doing those things anyhow. For me, it's distracting organizations. And so I have 1,000 ideas and, like, always just want to keep doing more things. And I've always known that, but I chose not to change. And so then the organizations were just always distracted. Um, today we're actually taking, or today, like, I'm trying not to do that anymore. How do you, whether it's like conscious or subconscious, like, how do you think through helping leaders that are trying to make a change, but may not be able to see that they're doing the very thing that they're trying to change?
Well, I'm so excited you asked me the question, because I have a very specific tool for that, especially for visionaries in your specific situation. So, this one might be an invitation for you, Ryan. And if anyone else is listening, feel free to listen. But I'm just going to have an invitation, just Jill and Ryan sitting here. So, we have said for years, in EOS. This is so funny. It's vision without traction is hallucination. And we laugh. And then sometimes I'll even say, and we can hallucinate on the weekends, my friends, like, but come on, we don't need hallucination here at work. But what's happened with that phrase is hallucination now has got a bad rap, right? Oh, we don't want to hallucinate. And Ryan, even in the way you said it, is I distract organizations. But it's that exact hallucination, the ideas, oh, we got to, the shiny things, we got to do that, we got to do that, that actually is the fuel of what started your companies. So, how dare we say that one hallucination was better than the other? How dare we say to you in any way, shape, or form, both if we intended to say it or if it was subliminal or anything, say to you that you please don't do that, Ryan. And now I just heard you and I watched your eyes and you're like, so now I try not to do that anymore. And your whole body language, it was like this, like, I am a loser. And you're not a loser. You're a brilliant, brilliant visionary. Okay, so now with that, here's the tool. Ready? Here's the tool. You get a journal, a blank journal, okay? And this journal is now titled the Hallucination Journal. And you hallucinate to your heart's content. You, you, I want to create a hot dog stand. How can we create purple striped and purple and pink striped hot dogs? And now, oh my gosh, we could put little umbrellas in the hot dogs because that's what the hot dog stand looks like at the top. And now we could also sell cotton candy. I mean, all of it. You hallucinate in that journal. And here's the rule, because they're right, a dash of structure. Here's the rule. You are not allowed to take any action on anything in that hallucination journal. It's there, it's safe. It's only for hallucinating. So here's what happens with visionaries. You start having an idea and you'll immediately go to, how can we start this? How can we move? I got to talk to a client. I got to talk to a this. And the idea isn't even fully vetted yet. It's just an idea. So it's a safe place for you to hallucinate. And then this is the question I always ask, I always get asked, but Jill, what if one of those ideas is really good? Really good. Then here's what you do. There's a ritual. Okay. You ceremoniously, physically, I like the journal to be paper and pen because it's really good. You ceremoniously rip that idea out of the hallucination journal. So it's no longer a hallucination. And then you put it in your chosen method on an issues list, take it to a same page meeting, run it through an impact filter, whatever your chosen method is of now developing that idea. But this gives your brain a safe space that it's your job to hallucinate and fill those pages. Fill those pages. So hopefully you like that.
That's a good one. I do like it. And I'm probably going to try that almost immediately to try and help this out.
Let me know how it goes because I always like to hear that.
And I think you're doing the mountain or the summit with Coach Bob, and you got a lot of interesting things. Is there, what have we missed that you are up to nowadays that we absolutely have to plug?
So much fun. So coaching magic is the thing that's getting most of my energy right now. And this is a community of passionate, dedicated coaches who sense a spark of magic. The magic is that wonder, it's presence, it's love, it's God, it's spirit, it's whatever you say it is, but you sense that there's something else going on here. You know what I mean? So that is really fun. There's a school for female coaches. There's immersives that are not intensive. Okay, they're not intensive. They're all weekend long. They're immersive. We like immerse ourselves and just geek out on coaching. And we play games and there's sidewalk chalk and bubbles and treats and games. And it's just a ton of fun. And then, yes, I'm going to the mountain. I'm co-facilitating the mountain with Bob Schenfeld for the Visionary Forum. I've been to the mountain before. And it's one of those, when we said, Jill, did you kind of grow like this? It's one of those transformative moments for me. So I believe in it. I'm so passionate about what he does with that. And I was so grateful to be invited as a co-facilitator. So yes, joining us on the mountain would be really fun. And I'm really having a good time with individual coaching. It's taking my heart, my magic to a new level of presence. I've always said EOS has layers. So EOS has layers, and if you get to the very core, it's about humans. And so now I'm going deep with humans. So there, that's what I'm up to.
I love it. I want to make sure, and I want to be respectful of your time. I know we're coming up towards the end. So just one last question before you go. Someone just listened to this whole thing. They're like, oh my gosh, she's an expert EOS implementer. She does coaching. She coaches coaches. She does all these things. If they're trying to get a hold of you, where can they go?
Oh, LinkedIn is really great. I'm active there a lot. Um, that's where I like to spread my magic. So LinkedIn is great, but also just a simple email, jill@jillyoung.com is so easy. And I love to have conversations. I just do. When I think about my 10-year target, um, it's probably not very measurable. And somebody would probably say, that's not right, Jill, but it works for me, right? This is the structure that works for me. Interesting conversations with interesting people in interesting spaces, which is exactly what I feel I'm living my 10-year target today. Because this podcast, Ryan, is such an interesting space that you've created. I know it's gone gangbusters and it's like, whoa, that's kind of cool. Because you talked to me before about how you created it. And I just have so much appreciation for you helping me live my 10-year target today because you're so interesting.
I love you are interesting. This was incredible, and the places that we took it. And selfishly, there's so many things in here that are going to help me out personally, which means I know that it's going to help audience members out as well. So
I'm open to continued conversation. So you have my email. So just give me a call.
that's it. Awesome.
Send me your deets, right?
Yes, I will, and maybe I'll see you on the mountain, and
Yes,
I'll
please.
see you at
Oh
the
my
conference for
gosh.
sure.
Wouldn't that be fun? My friends, Jill and Ryan and Bob, and I think there's already a couple of other people signed up, and we only have like 10 spaces. So if you want to come geek out with us, let's do it.
Thanks so much, Joe. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Ryan. Talk to you soon.